Hello guys, welcome back. It's Janos. I'm trying to build a Linux DC Active Directory domain controller with 3 Windows 10 clients. And I'm trying to show you the basics of this domain controller setup with all these clients, connecting to it, sorting out some home directories, some public directories, some different groups, different accesses for within groups, and we're gonna use this domain controller as an internet gateway as well. So I'm just setting up the actual servers build. I'm just going to disable the audio because we don't need that. I'm going to have 2 network cards in it. The first one is going to be attached to the NAT, which is going to give us internet access within VirtualBox, and the second one is going to be the internal one, where our network is going to be, and where our clients are going to sit. So for this build, I'm going to use Zentyal 7.0. It's a Ubuntu-based Linux distribution, and it's perfect for what we need it for. It's a pretty good, pretty solid domain controller. You will see that the installation is going to be a bit quicker than normal, so it's going to take longer for you to get this done, but by the magic of video making, I managed to avoid that, so you guys don't need to wait until the installation is finishing. I've got two network cards. The Ethernet 0 was the external one, so that's what I'm going to choose here, so we can get the packages from online. Just gotta give it a host name, Linux DC. It can be anything, whatever you choose your server to be, and my administrator and a long password for it, so it's gonna be secure. Let's just wait until the installation finishes. Just gonna reboot the system and going to start to configure the packages for the server. This will take some time in real life, but not on my video. Okay, so it's all installed. You're gonna get this warning page because it's HTTPS and it's not a trusted page, but don't worry about that. So just use your username and password, whatever you set in the beginning for your administrator, and then continue on to the initial setup. Okay, so here we are. We need domain control and file sharing. I'm not going to install mail and groupware just yet. DNS server, DHCP server is very important. We need a firewall. I'm just going to put FTP on as well. Maybe a bit of VPN, but you can also select anything you want from here. I'm going to make another video on a more advanced setup of this, but right now we're just going to set up kind of the bare basics. We're not even going to set up an HTTP proxy. So once you click on install, it's going to start to install the packages, and obviously it shows you that this is what you've selected, and this takes some time as well. But once it's finished, your server is ready to go, and we're ready to start configuring it. Okay, So the network interfaces. So Ethernet 0 is going to be the external one, which is connected to the internet, and Ethernet 1 is going to be the internal, which is connected to our network and to our clients. Ethernet 0 is going to be obviously getting a DHCP, getting the IP from DHCP from online, and Ethernet 1 will have to be static, and this is the IP for this server. So I'm going to set it to 192.168.0.10, and then we are going to set up a standalone server, and you just literally, whatever your domain is going to be called, mine is janostech.net. You select here, yeah, we would like to make that change, and this is kind of the last step to configure the server. And we are done. Congratulations to us. Let's go to the dashboard and see what we did. So as you can see, hostname Linux DC, it's all set up, version 7. Uptime, you can see loads of information here. DHCP leases later on when we're gonna have our clients connected to our server. The IP address for the external and the internal network card. We need to set up the DHCP first, which is very important, so our clients are gonna be able to connect to this server and get an IP. There is no ranges added yet, so we're gonna add our range first. I'm just going to make a really simple scope. It's 192.168.0.50 till 0.100, so we're going to be able to serve 100 clients on our server. So whoever joins first, they're going to get 192.168.0.50, and then from then on. Let's save the changes, that's very important, because otherwise it doesn't start and configure the service properly. So changes being saved. Going back to the dashboard, DHCP is still disabled, so we need to actually start the module. We can see that the interface is on Ethernet 1 and it's all correctly set up. So let's just click on the module status and start the service here. That's going to enable it for us by ticking that box. And now if we save the changes again and go back to the dashboard, we should have our DHCP server running, or service running. There you go. So everything looks good. DHCP, DNS, FTP, whatever we needed, it's all up and running. You can have a bit of a broad browse through here. As you can see, our server is set up as a gateway as well, so we do have internet access on this server. And once our clients are connected to this server, they're gonna get internet access straight away as well. You can check around the settings, the DNS, the routes, services. Everything is available from within the Zentyal interface. You can check out the logs later. For example, let's say the DHCP logs, if you want to see a full report, which we don't have any logs yet, but if you click on view here, you're going to be able to see below here once our clients are going to start to connect. They're going to be all recorded here. You can also set up your VPN. You need certification authority module configured for this. I'm not doing this right now, but just browsing through the dashboard so you can get a bit of familiarization with it. If you would like to check your IP address on the server, you can see in a terminal as well that Ethernet 1 is the internal one and Ethernet 0 is the external one connected to the internet. I've already set up 3 Windows 10 clients. They are barebone clients right now, so they are not connected to anything. I literally just cloned 3 of those. Just gonna go through quickly the settings of the DC controller again. So make sure it's connected to the adapter 2 is make sure it's connected to the internal network, and adapter 1 is to the NAT or bridged to your internet. So this is my first client. I set it up with 2 GB of memory, and it's also connected. It's already got 1 adapter configured, and it's also connected to the internal network, so it's going to be able to boot up from our DHCP server on our domain controller server. And literally all of these clients are the same. And then make sure if you clone Windows 10 as well, just make sure that the MAC address is not being cloned with the original client. So as you can see, when I booted up the Windows 10 clients, they were receiving the IP address from the server, so it's 50.51.52. And you can see a DHCP list on the side as well. What I need to do now is, obviously we haven't done anything. We literally just booted up these PCs, these clients, and they literally connected to our server. So what we need to do now is we need to get some users to be able to log into our domain. So click on the users tab and then add whoever you want. I'm going to first create the administrator user. So I'm just going to create Janos admin with passwords, and I'm going to add it to the domain admins group so I can use it to add the Windows 10 clients onto my domain. So let's create a group called marketing, and this will include all the marketing users we're going to have in our fictional company. Let's create another group called finance. Also, this is going to contain all the users we have for finance. With these groups, I'm going to be able to demonstrate how to set up access to shared drives only for certain groups, and how to set up a public shared drive as well, so everybody can access it. Let's add our first user called finance.ls. She's going to be a finance user. And let's add her to our finance group. And let's create another user called marketing.jessica. She's going to be our marketing user. And also, I'm going to add one more user who's not going to be in any of these groups. So you'll see how it works when you set up the permissions for access. So we've got 3 users: Finance, Alice, Janos user, and Jessica. So let's go and add our first Windows workstation onto our domain. If you go into System and change System Properties and change Settings, let's change the computer name to Desktop 1, because that's going to be our first client, and let's add our workstation onto the janostech.net domain. We'll need to use the domain admin account we just set up on the server, which is Janos admin in my case. And the big success for us, we are on the janostech.net domain, or whatever domain you set up for yourself. Let's reboot the PC now. So our first client is ready to log in. We're just gonna log in with finance.ls. We are logging into, as you can see on the bottom, sign into janostech. So we're going to log into the janostech domain as finance.ls. This takes some time to configure as well, but let's just skip that. So we are logged onto our domain. There is a home drive already set up on our server. That Zentyal does that automatically. So that H drive is literally finance.ls's home drive, and it's set up on the domain controller. You can select drive letter there. This is a private drive or private folder, so only Alice has got access to this folder. It's only the user who's gonna be able to control this folder. Nobody else going to be able to get to see what's in this folder or in this drive. So desktop 1 is on the janostech.net domain. Go to the dashboard, you can see the leases and the host name for desktop 1. So desktop 2 and 3 has not been added to the domain yet, and we're gonna do that now. So that's desktop 2, that's desktop 2, and the previous one was desktop 3. So 51 is desktop 2. Let's change the workgroup to our domain. Let's rename it to desktop 2 and add it to our domain. And we do the same for desktop 3 as well. So rename it to desktop 3 and add it to our new domain. So we're gonna log in as marketing.jessica and the Janos user who's not actually part of any groups to see how they're being configured on the domain controller and how can we actually configure access to various folders for these users. So the DHCP leases, we can clearly see that they are all the correct hostname as well as the IP addresses. And if you check out the DHCP logs, you can see that now we do have logs on when the DHCP IP was leased to these clients, which is quite useful if you want to check it in the future. We're just gonna check Jessica's H drive. So yeah, Jessica also has her H drive on the DC. So again, this is a private drive, nobody can access it apart from her. But we are going to configure a network drive for each of these departments. So for example, like in our example, we've got marketing and finance, but you can have HR, whatever you would like to set up. It works the same way. So let's just create a folder for Janos as well. And if you click on file sharing on the DC, you're gonna be able to add folders here. So let's just create a new finance share for our finance users. The folder share is going to be called finance users only, and it's going to be a share part is going to be a finance folder on the Zentyal server. We're going to assign this to our group finance, and then we're going to change the permission to read and write. So they can actually, whoever accesses it within the finance department, they're gonna be able to read and write to that folder or to that drive, because it's gonna be, we're gonna set it up as a shared drive. So we're gonna do the same for marketing. We're not going to allow guest access, so just stay away from that. And also we're gonna add a public one where anyone can literally access that folder who's joined to our domain, regardless of what group they're in. So the public is going to be able to accessed by anyone on our domain, any domain users. So we're going to log back onto all of our clients. And we are going to start mapping. So this is Finance Alice's account. So we're just going to go to the Linux DC and then into the Finance Shared folder. And as you can see, you can access that folder because we are logged on as Alice, who's part of the finance group. Let's map that network drive so they can, after a reboot, they can also access it again. And it's gonna be easier than, you know, constantly searching for it. So the finance drive, we mapped it as an F drive for Alice. And let's also map the public drive. You can see that we could try to get into the marketing, but she doesn't have any access to that, so she's denied access to that. But the public drive is available to her as well, as to everyone. So she can create folder or copy files or do anything she wants. And let's also map that drive to her manually. We're gonna do manual mapping now, so you can actually see how it works. And then later on my follow-up video, I'm going to do a bit more advanced. We're gonna create a couple of scripts. We're gonna join Linux clients to this Active Directory server as well. And we're gonna dig in a bit deeper on what you can actually achieve on these Linux domain controller. So the public drive is also available for the Janos user as well. So I'm going to map that to him. But he doesn't have any access to anything else right now. And he's marketing Jessica. We can't get into the finance folder because she's not in that group. She doesn't have access to it. But we can get into the marketing one where Alice couldn't get into. So let's create a folder for Jessica as well on this. So we can see that it's a writable share for her. And also the public share where you can also already see that Alice and Janos is already there. Now, Obviously, if you don't know about permissions too much, you have to be aware that the public is readable and writable for everyone. So once Alice creates a folder, let's say, Jessica is going to be able to delete it, and vice versa. So it's a true shared folder. We're gonna do the mapping for marketing as well. So let's log out, log back in again, and see if our network drives are mapped. Yes, they are finance, home drive, and a public drive. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and on my follow-up video I'm going to go a bit deeper into how to set a proper scripted server up.